With the Nintendo Switch 2 coming up, people are wondering exactly how this system can do in the market based off of some of the things that we know at this point. But what I wanted to go over is the Nintendo Switch 2 set to do the impossible? Something that we've been debating and discussing and the internet is talking about all the time with this system. Now, the Nintendo Switch 2 is coming at a time when there's a lot of uncertainty in the gaming industry. Absolutely, the PlayStation 5 is doing incredible, but the Xbox Series has slumped off. PC gaming is PC gaming, and there's all sorts of these different PC handhelds that people talk about, but don't necessarily actually put up numbered sales. So, can the Nintendo Switch 2 be the first system ever for Nintendo to go back-to-back 100 million units sold? Now, we did have the Nintendo DS and the Nintendo Wii that went back to back in terms of home console and portable within pretty much the same generation. Those two were out at the same point, and it's portable and home console, so things are a little bit different, but we're talking about a successor back-to-back 100 million. Nintendo has never done that in their history, which is kind of crazy, but they've always had a huge success, then sometimes a little bit less, or they've had something to where it's a little bit less, first and foremost, like Game Boy Advance, and then a huge success with the Nintendo DS, which Game Boy Advance came from the Game Boy, and the Game Boy was 100 million units as well. But what I'm trying to say here is that some people feel that Nintendo can't do something like that, to where they can have a stable back-to-back 100 million selling systems in the modern age. As I've analyzed everything, just like I did with the Nintendo Switch back right before that came out, where I said that system can sell 100 million, after going over a number of different things, I think the Nintendo Switch 2 can absolutely do that. And we're going to go over a bunch of information that many people are not really talking about when it comes to how this system's going to do on the market. So we're going to jump into all of that and so much more. But before we do, let's talk about you guys hitting that subscribe button if you're not subscribed to my channel yet. If you want the best Nintendo Switch 2 news, you're definitely going to want to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and click that notification bell to get my vids as soon as they drop. Now let's go ahead and jump into it here. Let's start off with why I think this can happen. Now, the Japanese sales are something that you don't see a lot of mainstream coverage from, or even content creators cover, but it tells a story that needs to be told overall on how this system is going to dominate the market or sell overall. Right now, Nintendo has a crazy sales ratio when it comes to market domination in Japan, and the most recent Japanese sales just came out again, and once again, the 8-year-old Nintendo Switch is dominating the market, selling more than double any other platform in the market at this point. Now, of course, we have the rest of the world, and Nintendo Switch obviously isn't doing as well as PlayStation 5, but the fact that they can still have a full market share as much as they have in Japan foreshadows what's going to be happening with the Nintendo Switch 2, as the Nintendo Switch 2 is probably going to instantly be the top selling system and the top selling system for the rest of the year, simply based off of what the Nintendo Switch is still doing in Japan. Sales are fading and not necessarily great overall, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000 sometimes, so it's right there in that range, which is pretty good. It's okay for a system being that old, but I do feel that once the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out, it's going to pick up right where the Nintendo Switch left off and have some pretty big weeks, especially heading into the holiday season. Now, another thing that I want to talk about that people didn't really discuss too much outside of Twitter and everything was the fact that Nintendo has a record 72 million first-party published sellers on the Nintendo Switch. That is an all-time record by more than like 10 to 20 games or so plus, where Nintendo beat out their previous best with like 50 something, 10 plus over what they've done before. And yeah, that is incredible. 72 million sellers. That's what gets you incredibly big brand loyalty. And I think that's an important thing that Nintendo has had over the years, but brand loyalty along with one unified vision or platform is something that Nintendo has never had, heading from one generation to the next. If you look at all of their best selling systems, there's always been some type of counterpart, portable system, home console, or something else, to where sometimes those games don't go on everything that they're doing. So from Game Boy to Game Boy Advance, or from Game Boy Advance to the Nintendo DS, there's always like, okay, you have the N64, you have the GameCube, you have the Wii, you have something else that's also diverting resources. So they've never actually had it to where they've had the brand loyalty that they have right now with the Nintendo Switch, but all of it heading into one platform in another generation. And the Nintendo Switch 2 is set up for that. So I do think that that is going to be huge. That is so many people out there buying games. And what I mean by 72 million sellers, that these games have sold at least 1 million units that Nintendo published at the time. So there are a ton of games that people have just played and picked up and known from their childhood, depending on how old you are, or even people that are older, adults, or people that played Nintendo back in the day. Regardless, it seems like everybody that likes Nintendo has came back to buy this system, play it, and even more. They've been able to build a even bigger base than what Nintendo usually has, and a dedicated base of people that are willing to actually spend money to buy games. That's going to be so important as gamers look to what's next when it comes to what they want to pick up and what they want to get for their own entertainment. Now, another thing is, this is something that's a little bit smaller, but I do like to point it out just because it's pretty cool to see that the Nintendo Switch 2 trailer is going on 21 million views on YouTube. It'll probably get there at some point next week or so, but it's going on 21 million views with over 106,000 comments and over 1 million likes overall. So there was some type of people saying, oh, the reception for the Nintendo Switch 2 was bad online. That's why I think it's not going to do well. And it's like, what are you talking about? The reception has been really good overall. Plus, you don't really know who's saying certain things. People are always talking all sorts of stuff. I mean, ultimately, the reception for the Nintendo Switch, there was a bunch of negative, and there was a bunch of people saying that it's not going to do well, or that they learned nothing from the Nintendo Wii U, or that it's going to fail. There were articles and there were people all over the place doing that. Heck, a lot of those videos are still on YouTube. So I do think that the reception this time, because we know what the product is much better. A lot of the comments are just saying they're excited to see that gaming's kind of boring right now. The industry's just kind of like, we're just seeing a lot of the samey looking type of games. So I do think that people are excited to see what a Nintendo more high-powered system can do in the market, considering everything that's going on right now. And kind of speaking of that, the gaming industry is looking for new hardware. The gaming industry is looking for something to kind of come up and take the mantle from the Nintendo Switch, as that system is on its way out. The Nintendo Switch selling 150 million units, and no other system really getting close to that, or at least no other system will get close to that in the modern day. We haven't had anything. The last time that we had a system even get close to this was the Nintendo DS, and that feels like ancient history at this point, even though it's not that long ago. But it was back in 2012 when the Nintendo DS hit 150 million, or right around there or so. And then even before that, it was the PlayStation 2. Outside of that, there's been no other system that's even gotten close, even from Sony, right? They've had a lot of successes over the years. They've sold 100 million plus multiple times, but really they only have one system, the PlayStation 2, that was able to sell that 160 million. Outside of that, no other system has been able to hit that 150 million mark. Now, Nintendo has something unique overall, is that they've actually hit 150 million twice: the Nintendo DS and now the Nintendo Switch. So that dedicated base in terms of the loyalty of people buying the system, as long as the games are there, that's what I think they can continue. And I think that's where I'm kind of pulling from. I don't think it's really a mistake that two of Nintendo's most populated system with games, because I think that's the other 55 million, 1 million sellers, plus I think the Nintendo DS is that. I don't think it's any mistake that those two systems are the 150 million plus selling systems, two of the best selling systems of all time, because they got a blitz of big first-party games, first-party published titles, games on games on games. There's a lot of crazy stuff on there, shovelware, other things, but at the end of the day, they really just got a ton of games overall, and I think that is what is the difference overall, and that's why Nintendo's been able to sell 150 million units of a system twice now at this point, which has never been done. So I do feel that that momentum that the Nintendo DS started in that model, I think the Nintendo Switch picked up that mantle, obviously added a bunch of other elements from different systems like Nintendo's talked about, and then put it into something that created what we're seeing right now, which the Nintendo Switch could become the best-selling system of all time when it's all said and done. So I think that the Nintendo Switch is going to pick up that momentum, and once again, the industry is looking for something different. Right now, you have Xbox, they're going third party at this point. They're going to get games on every single platform, which is fine. I don't have any problem with them doing that if they want to do that. it's their business, and their business is a lot of business. So they need to make sure that they make money, and Game Pass doesn't get people to necessarily buy games overall because you're just getting it on there, and they're not increasing the Game Pass numbers enough, so they have to put games on other platforms. The PlayStation 5 is doing incredibly well and all that is good, but there is a lack of first-party games because Sony messed up with the live service type of stuff. They messed up, and they're pretty much reeling at this point when it comes to first-party development. A lot of big gaps in their lineup overall, but they're doing their best. They're getting some third parties to fill in, and they're still selling incredibly well, but there is a gap. There is a bit of a, I would say, unique part of the industry that wants that consistent first party big seller lineup like we got back in the day, like how it was. And the Nintendo Switch 2 will provide that when it comes to the Nintendo Directs, when it comes to the new game announcements, when it comes to all the different franchises, and where it kind of just fits in the industry overall. So I'm very much looking forward to the Nintendo Switch 2 coming in and filling that void that people clearly need to see. Now, this is something that's a little bit more of, okay, maybe it's for some people, but the recent State of Play that just came out, right? I mean, if you like those type of games, and there were some games that I thought that looked cool, that's fine, but there was a lack of big first party to truly get people excited about what you're doing personally with the hardware, and I think that's what the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to provide. It's going to provide those big type of presentations where you see a lot of different types of software first party that take advantage of the system itself, and you can get excited and hyped again when it comes to the presentation. So I do feel that that is what the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to fill right now in this gaming industry. We need it, man. And Matt Piscatella, who's an industry analyst, said that, yeah, GTA 6 and the Nintendo Switch 2 should lift up and get the gaming industry back into growth, because we're not having growth right now. It's just been down or flat. So I think that the Nintendo Switch 2 could help elevate things overall. Now, obviously, people like to see more third-party games. I think that's something that some people felt that Nintendo could never do in terms of impossible, is get more third-party support. Now, the Nintendo Switch 1 was a good, I would say, start, but there's still more work to be done. Nintendo is definitely working on that, and if you look at the strengthening third-party relationship, you saw so many different third-party developers on there. FromSoft was on there, so maybe Elden Ring. Microsoft was on there. We know that there's going to be more games coming. There was a litany of third-party developers, but I think that the one thing that Nintendo needs to do is that they need to make sure that they convince these developers that, hey, look, the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be the most attractive place to put your games, because you want people to have engagement. Well, the Nintendo Switch 2 can be played anywhere at any point. So that's going to get you more engagement, more people playing your games, more opportunities for people to play your games. I do think that that is the biggest thing that Nintendo needs to kind of key on, and I think that that's what Furukawa and the new guy that they brought in for third-party support, I don't know his name, but I'll put it up on the screen. They actually got him from Sony. They're serious about getting more third-party support and making sure that those third-party developers put out quality products on the Nintendo Switch 2, because it's going to be a big part of what Nintendo's doing for the next generation. Obviously, you need that first-party games. First-party games are the engine, it's the nucleus, it's the core. The third-party games are the outer exterior, it's the shell. It helps as well protect the core overall. So I do think that that's what's going to happen here with the third-party support. Based off of what we're hearing so far, stuff like Metal Gear Solid Delta, Tekken is coming over, Elden Ring, other games are coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 that wouldn't come to the Nintendo Switch 1, so that's definitely a good thing overall. And I would say this, the last thing that we're going to go over is all games on one platform is the key. I kind of hinted on it a little bit before, but I think that's the biggest thing that the Nintendo Switch 2, why it can do necessarily the impossible and have this back-to-back 100 million selling systems. All games on one platform. And this is something, or a concept, that I think a lot of you guys understand, but a lot of the people that don't watch my channel or don't watch my live streams, they don't understand this. They'll reference other systems like the Nintendo 3DS, or like the Game Boy Advance, or like the Wii U, or like these other systems that necessarily didn't do as well as their predecessors. And that's fine. You're allowed to do that. And you're allowed to have an opinion that, okay, maybe it won't do as well, or 100 million. That's fine too. But I think that the biggest thing is that none of those systems beforehand actually had all of the support on that one system. They had it split. And guys, listen, games sell hardware. I know it's something that's a concept that should be easily definable. Like, yes, games sell hardware. Now, yes, you need a gimmick, you need a certain thing that people like. Obviously, you have to have attractive hardware, specs, whatever the case is. That's all a part of it. But at the end of the day, people buy hardware to play the games. And that's really is what's going to be the big thing here. So Nintendo having all of their games on this one platform going forward, and having development, I would say, time cycles that are good. The development time time in terms of things not taking forever to make the games, not wasting their time with live service nonsense, not doing that, but getting down to the bottom of it when it comes to what people are looking for. I think that they need to go 100 miles an hour on that. They need to go full steam ahead, and I think that they are. All of Nintendo's biggest developers are working on Nintendo Switch 2 games. I know this because one of the things that we saw with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, they were asked, are you guys doing DLC for the game? The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild had some DLC, and they're like, nope, we're not. And that tells me that they need to get started. The Zelda team does not have any time. There is zero time to waste. They need to get started on making the next big Zelda adventure so they can have something in the next number of years. Same thing with Monolith Soft. I think that they're hard at work on the next big title. They've talked about recruiting. They've been recruiting for this next big game for 3 years plus now at this point. So you're going to see Monolith Soft's big new game. You're going to see the next Zelda within the next number of years. Obviously, there's going to be a big 3D Mario. The Mario team hasn't had a big new Mario game since Odyssey back in 2017. We know that there's a big new Mario Kart, and all of that is coming to one platform. No need to split it up and go to a portable platform and a home console and kind of get people fighting back and forth when it comes to Nintendo Directs on what they're focusing on. The fact that everything is focused on one platform is going to help them do the impossible and get that first ever for Nintendo, at least, back-to-back 100 million in terms of one system, then the successor back-to-back 100 million sales. They've had it staggered, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, then the Nintendo DS, but they've never had it back-to-back with the successor, and I think that's finally going to happen at this point with the Nintendo Switch 2, but we're going to have to wait and see. But what are you guys' thoughts overall when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 set to do the impossible on this? Let me know some other things or some other accomplishments that you feel that the Nintendo Switch 2 can do. I'd love to hear in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.